tell you that. These two sections here, way more common than this section, but yet we express as this, yeah? And you can't regulate this. If this is what you're expressing, you can't regulate it. Why? Because this is not the actual emotion you're feeling. It might be a portion of it, but to really get to hone in on what it is that you need to address, you have to go to these emotions. And you have to ask. And my little tip for this, when you're trying to look at this later on by yourself, I encourage you to do so. Go back to high school. Who, what, when, where, how, and why? Who is upsetting me? Why am I upset? Where do I tend to get the most insecure? What was the other one? What? What makes me feel helpless? Who makes me feel helpless? Do not underestimate that there are people in our lives that can make us feel emotions that we don't necessarily always feel with other people. And the more you become aware of where and what and how you feel, the better you can start making better decisions, because you'll realize, why is it that I feel so insecure every time I'm around this one friend? Maybe you shouldn't really spend too much time with that one friend. Sorry to say.
I have a question.
Sure.
I saw you had anger and upset. Just wondering what's the difference between the two and why, and if there is a difference, why upset wasn't on the wheel.
Right. I put angry and upset because Guyanese love to say I was upset. What upset means is open to a very large, I feel like upset needs its own section, right? So upset can be irritated, it can be physically upset, like your stomach, Guyanese are almost stomach upset. Okay, so what does that mean? Like you have to go to the bathroom, you have gas, I don't understand, right? So like we tend to use upset a lot. So I did it that way so I could make it kind of generic without giving away what her emotion was, basically. But good observation. But Guyanese tend to say upset. I want you all to start removing upset from your vocabulary. Upset don't tell me as a therapist anything about what you're actually feeling, okay?
In a case where you don't often or you can't readily identify what exactly you're feeling, how do you advise someone to proceed with that?
Right. So let me go back. Sometimes we can't always start in the middle. Sometimes we have to start on the outside, which can be very overwhelming for some people. We have to sometimes start on the outside and make our way in. And sometimes and the thing is, what I've seen again is that people aren't more able to identify these emotions. They may be easier to identify these or even the second layer, right? So if someone can't, it's always good to talk to someone and maybe hopefully that person may have a little bit more emotional understanding and give that back to them. But I think that if someone really doesn't have the concept of emotions in general, I think that may even be something more serious and they really should see a therapist, because there might be something else happening where they don't know how to identify
is that what we think impacts on how we feel, and how we feel impacts on our behavior. And if we don't learn how to take control over our emotions, take control over how we're feeling, then we will have those perpetual problems in our relationships. Now, the reality is also, and John Gottman is a really great resource for relationship wisdom, I guess. And he talks a lot about perpetual problems in relationships. Now, we like to assume that everything is solvable, but it's not, because we are very different human beings. When we can become aware, and the reality is, and I say this to my clients all the time, it's not so much about fixing yourself. It's about, you talked a lot about this word was coming up a lot when Raiza was speaking. It's about becoming aware of what's going on for you, of what's happening in your mind, what challenges you're facing, so that you can catch yourself and allow yourself to make the other change that needs to happen so that you can progress well. All right. So
for example, if I say to my husband, you always dropping your clothes all over, what is the solution to
don't do that, friend. So the solution is to make this the review or the appraisal about what you're actually speaking about. So instead of you always dropping your clothes on the floor, how about saying, babe, did you notice that you've dropped your clothes on the floor? And that is very specific. Right here, right now, the clothes are currently on the floor. Not you always, every time I come here, I gotta pick up the clothes. It is, honey, I've noticed that you dropped your clothes on the floor. Could you pick it up, please?
Yeah, staying present, definitely. I think Guyanese tend to, not Guyanese, people, sorry, real Guyanese. I'm always saying Guyanese always. But people tend to always go way back. Why? Because we haven't dealt with a lot of those things. We kind of just keep shuffling under the rug, and then clothes on the floor becomes clothes on the floor to your mother, to your auntie, to your so-and-so, and who didn't buy thing for the wedding, and who didn't come to the 9-day. And it's because we have all this pent up stuff that we have not talked about. And so one single thing can be that thing. And I always encourage clients to use a lot of I statements. It's something that I'm working with. A lot of people don't feel comfortable saying, I feel, or I think, or I saw, or I'm concerned about. Like, we can even put it over as concern, because you is defensive. As soon as someone tells you're like, oh, you're talking about me? Okay. Operate among them. So conflict resolution is simply a way for two or more people to agree on a peaceful solution. Your ultimate goal for conflict resolution is to A, build a relationship between those involved, find a resolution that is mutually beneficial for all, and resolve the tension as quickly as possible. Right? And so before you try to settle the conflict, ensure that you have investigated both sides of the issue. Kerese said, if something comes up, ask a question, right? Ask a question, because sometimes we don't know, have I done something? Sometimes people will just tell you right off the bat, no, it's not you. I had a stressful day at work. I'm sorry. Or no, like, leave me alone for a second. It's not about you. I promise it's not about you. And that will de-escalate the situation to some degree, because the person has confirmed it is not you. And B, they need a moment. And 3, you know how to operate. Okay, it's not about me. They need a break. Okay, I'm going to go and come back and check in on it. So you've gotten a lot of information from those 3 statements, right? Sentences. Acknowledge the problem.
When would you say mediation is needed?
Much there, because you have a small community. So mediation really should be done as soon as there's problems within, say, a community or a workplace environment, because if we leave things to fester, we'll see eventually people will have emotional outbursts to some degree. We can't expect people who may not have stress management or emotional management, we can't expect them to be, the best version of themselves if they don't have all the skills. Seek mediation when or if there's a gridlock over an issue and the stakes are high. Yeah, exactly. And that can be anything. That could be work, that could be a relationship, children, and so on, right? Thank you, Kerese, for that. Okay.
I wanted to share some of my tips that I use. And I find connecting with people when you have conflict with them, trying to find something that you can easily diffuse the situation with. I think starting off by saying sir or ma'am before anything kind of puts nobody's going to get really angry at somebody who says sir or ma'am before you give them what it is that they may not like. I use appeasement, trying to find a way that you can appease to this individual, whether it be by physical touch, making eye contact, showing truth to action.
Okay.
What are some ways you think that we can improve our emotional intelligence as an organization?
I wouldn't say positive, but he finds a way to put things to circumvent it, like to say, well, here's the reason why it happened, but don't make you feel very stupid. And I think sometimes when people know things, the way it's not what you say, it's how you say it. And you have to be cautious that you don't know what anybody's going through in their daily life, and you just have to exercise grace and kindness.
I could say it was very impactful for me. I learned so much about empathy and the way to assess someone's emotions before judging them, especially when they're angry. That could actually be coming from a place of sadness. It was so impactful for me, and it's now going to help me go on to building better relationships and having better understanding in the workplace and in my study environment, and going forward with a lot of other networking organizations that I will be a part of. Thank you so much.
I enjoyed learning from the three presenters. The session was very engaging and provided valuable insights into the different facets of emotional intelligence and how it can be used in our everyday life. I believe it was very helpful in guiding us on how to apply these concepts into our own life experiences, and I look forward to more sessions like this one.